The snow fell hard the day we set off. Dad said it would be an adventure, just the two of us out in the winter woods. Our little tent and sleeping bags were packed tight. We trekked for hours. Trees surrounded us, tall and dark. The snow crunched under our boots. Everything was quiet except for the wind. We were crossing a frozen stream. I slipped. Dad reached for me, but he lost his footing too. We both tumbled down the bank. My ankle twisted sharply. Dad hit his head. When he sat up, something was different. He was quiet, still, staring out at the trees. We were lost. The sky turned grey. The snow kept falling. We set up the tent quickly as the light faded. Dad moved strangely, like he wasn't quite there. He didn't speak. I tried to talk to him about getting back, about my ankle hurting. He just stared ahead. Night came. It was cold, biting cold. We huddled in our sleeping bags. I couldn't sleep. Every little sound from outside made me jump. The wind howled through the trees. Branches cracked in the cold. Dad lay beside me, completely still, breathing very quietly. Morning arrived, grey and bleak. The snow was deeper. Dad got up and went outside. He walked into the trees. I watched him from the tent opening. He moved silently, scanning the woods. He came back after a while, face empty. We had biscuits and a bit of chocolate for breakfast, the last of our proper food. Days went by. I cannot say how many exactly. Time blurred. We ate what little we had left, then nothing. My stomach hurt, a constant hollow ache. Dad grew thinner, his face gaunt. He spent his days walking in the woods. Sometimes he'd be gone for hours. He never said where he went. His eyes changed. They became bright, too bright. Fixed. He looked through me, not at me. He would stare into the trees as if he could see something out there, something I couldn't. He moved with a new kind of focus, a strange alertness. One day he came back to the tent with a dead rabbit. He must have caught it somehow. He didn't explain. He just started skinning it. His hands worked quickly, efficiently. He built a small fire, the smoke rising thin and grey against the white snow. We ate the rabbit, roasted over the flames. It tasted gamey. But we were so hungry it didn't matter. After that, he hunted every day. He brought back squirrels, birds, small things. He was becoming very good at it. He moved through the trees like he was part of them, silent and quick. I watched from the tent, my ankle still sore if I tried to walk too much. I felt weaker each day. Dad hardly looked at me now. When he was in the tent, he would sit and stare into the distance. His silence was not normal silence. It felt different. Like something had gone from him, leaving behind only a shell, or maybe something had come into him, something cold and sharp. The weather turned colder, the nights were long and dark. The noises in the woods seemed different now. Not just the wind and branches. Sometimes there were other sounds, rustling in the undergrowth when there was no wind, snapping twigs far off in the trees. Sounds that made me shiver even inside my sleeping bag. Dad started staying out later. Sometimes he wouldn't come back to the tent until it was fully dark. He would arrive with something he had caught, or sometimes nothing at all, but he always returned with that same bright, fixed look in his eyes. One evening he came back empty-handed. He sat by the fire we had made, his face lit by the flickering flames. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in days. But it wasn't my dad's look. It was something else. Something hungry. His eyes moved over me, not with love, not with worry, just assessing. Like he was seeing me for the first time, seeing what I was. His gaze stopped on my face, then moved downwards, slowly, to my body. I shifted back in my sleeping bag, pulling it tighter around me. I felt a sudden chill, deeper than the cold air. It started in my stomach and spread out, making my skin prickle. I watched him, every nerve on edge. He stood up. He walked to the entrance of the tent and looked out into the trees. He stood there for a long time, completely still. Then he turned back. He looked at me again. That same hungry look was in his eyes, even stronger now. He started to move towards me, not quickly, but steadily. Each step was measured, certain. His eyes never left mine. I could see something in them now, something beyond hunger, something intent. He kept coming, closer and closer. The fire crackled behind him, throwing leaping shapes on the tent walls. I could hear my own heart pounding in my ears. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. I just watched him approach, his eyes locked on mine as the distance between us vanished. The letter arrived unexpected, telling of a cabin deep in the woods. Inherited, it said. Uncle Thomas. A name vaguely recalled from childhood, a distant relative spoken of in hushed tones. Curiosity, a foolish thing, drove me to go. The woods were dense, ancient trees crowding close, blocking out the light. The track to the cabin was overgrown, barely visible. Hours it took to drive down it, the car bumping and scraping. Finally, the cabin appeared. Small, wooden, weathered grey. It sat in a small clearing, quiet, too quiet. Inside, dust lay everywhere. Furniture was old, solid. A strange, musty smell hung in the air. Exploring, I found a note on the kitchen table. Uncle Thomas's writing, shaky, faded ink, simple words. "Never leave food out at night, never." No explanation, just the stark warning. I shrugged it off. Old wives' tales, I thought. Country superstitions. Unpacking, I grew hungry. I made a sandwich, crisps, an apple. Too much to eat. The scraps I put on a plate outside the back door. "Waste not, want not," my mother always said. I forgot the note. It slipped my mind completely as tiredness took over. Sleep came quickly in the still cabin. Sometime in the dark hours, something woke me. Not a sound, not exactly, more a feeling. A prickling on my skin, goosebumps rising on my arms in the summer heat. I lay there, still, listening. The cabin was silent. Outside, the woods were silent. Too silent. Normally there would be night sounds. Insects, owls, something rustling in the undergrowth. Nothing. I got out of bed, walked to the window. Moonlight filtered through the trees, patchy and weak. The back garden was dark, merging into the trees beyond. I could see nothing unusual, just the trees, the lawn, the edge of the woods. Whatever had woken me was gone, or maybe it was just my imagination. I returned to bed, but sleep was reluctant to come back. Restless, I tossed and turned until the grey light of dawn seeped through the window. Morning air was cold, sharp. I went outside, stretching. The plate I'd left out was gone, clean gone. Odd, but maybe an animal. Foxes, badgers, they were common in the countryside. They take scraps, except scattered on the grass were fragments. Not scraps, bones, small splintered bones, and something else, and something darker, staining the grass. Closer inspection revealed hair, not animal hair. Too fine, too pale, human hair. Disgust rose in my throat. I stumbled back inside, heart racing now. Panic started to edge into my mind. What was this? What had been here in the night? The note, Uncle Thomas's warning. It came back to me, sharp and cold. Never leave food out at night. He knew. He knew something about this place. Fear gnawed. I needed to leave. Pack up, get in the car, drive away. Forget the cabin, forget Uncle Thomas, forget everything. But a morbid curiosity held me captive. I had to know. Know what had taken the food. Know what had left those remains. The day passed slowly. Every creak of the cabin, every rustle of leaves outside set my nerves on edge. I stayed inside, windows shut, doors bolted. Darkness fell again. This night felt different. Oppressive. The silence was deeper, heavier, the air cooler despite it being summer. I kept all the lights on, every lamp, every bulb blazing. It felt futile, a tiny island of light in an ocean of black. I sat on the sofa, rigid, straining to hear anything above the pounding of my own heart. Minutes stretched into hours, nothing. Just silence, just the feeling of being watched. Suddenly a sound outside, not loud, not sharp, more a scrape, like something large, heavy, dragging against wood. It came from the back of the cabin, near the kitchen door where the plate had been. My breath hitched in my chest. I wanted to run, to hide, to scream, but I was frozen, paralyzed by terror. The scraping sound came again, and again, each time a little bit closer. It was circling the cabin, moving with purpose. Whatever was making that noise was getting nearer, nearer to me. Then outside the window something moved, tall, very tall, taller than the trees. It passed by, blocking out the faint moonlight. Just a silhouette, dark against dark. But I could sense it, its size, its presence. It moved with a fluid grace that belied its bulk. It stopped by the back door. The scraping began again right outside the kitchen. Then a different sound, a clicking, sharp, dry clicks like bones knocking together. The clicking grew faster, insistent. It was right outside the door now. I could feel its presence, feel its interest. Then, for a moment, silence, complete, utter silence. The scraping stopped, the clicking ceased. Even the wood seemed to hold its breath. The silence was more terrifying than any sound. It was the silence of anticipation. The silence before something unspeakable happens. And then it was there, at the window. The kitchen window, small and high above the sink. Something filled the window space, not blocked it out completely, but filled it. Too big to be a person, too tall. Slowly, something lowered into view. First, 2 points of light, high up, burning in the darkness, eyes, glowing yellow eyes. Staring directly at me, even through the thick glass, unblinking, intense. Below the eyes, something else emerged from the shadows. Antlers. Huge branching antlers, like the bare branches of a dead tree. They scraped against the top of the window frame, wood groaning under the pressure. The creature lowered further. A face began to take shape in the window, gaunt, elongated, skin stretched tight over bone. It was not animal, not human, something in between, something twisted and wrong. It pressed its face against the glass, its breath fogged the pane in front of its eyes. I could see details now, sharp teeth, too many teeth, a long black tongue flicking out, tasting the air, smelling me, knowing I was inside. It stayed there at the window for what felt like an eternity, just looking, studying me. Then, slowly, it straightened up, antlers scraping and groaning against the window frame again. It stepped back from the window, disappearing into the darkness beyond. The silence returned, but now it was different. It was a silence charged with dread. I knew it was still out there, watching, waiting. It had come for food, but now it knew I was here. Now it knew there was more than just scraps to be had. I sat there, shaking, listening to the silence, waiting for it to return, knowing with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that it would. And next time it wouldn't be interested in scraps. Night, snow, everywhere white. My lorry pushed through drifts piling up higher than usual. Road signs vanished under blankets of white. Supposed to reach Leeds by morning, not looking good at this rate. Sat-nav blinked, suggesting a quicker route. Highway ahead, closed due to weather. It beeped, then offered a B-road shortcut. Isolated. No other traffic for miles back. Dumb idea, probably, but time was slipping. Turned onto the smaller road, trees crowded in, snow-covered branches bowing low. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Windscreen wipers fought a losing battle. Headlights cut weak tunnels through the blizzard. Radio crackled static, then died. Just the engine's rumble and the wind scream. Started to regret the shortcut. Too late now. Then something moved, flicker at the edge of the headlight beam. Thought it was a deer, maybe, caught in the snow. Glanced again, nothing. Must be the snow playing tricks on my eyes. Road got narrower, twisting uphill. Engine strained, wind howled. Another flicker, this time clearer. Something tall and thin moving beside the lorry in the swirling snow. Too tall for a deer, much too tall, like a person, but stretched out, impossibly long legs eating up the ground. Heart jumped, foot pressed harder on the accelerator. Lorry sped up, tires scrabbling for grip on the ice. Looked again, there, still there, running alongside, keeping pace. Long pale things like arms swung with each stride. Headlights caught a glimpse of white, bone-like, not animal, not person. Something else, faster, pushed the pedal down further. Engine roared its protest. Speedometer needle climbed, road blurred into a ribbon of white. Looked across again. Thing still there. Same distance, same speed. As if it floated, not ran. Its height was unbelievable. Taller than the lorry cab, taller than anything should be. Cold sweat broke out on my back. Hands gripped the steering wheel tight. Eyes fixed on the road ahead, but kept flicking glances to the side mirror. Still there, always there. Like it was attached to the lorry, pulled along by some invisible harness. Tried to make sense of it. Hypothermia, too much coffee, but it was right there. Solid, real. Running in the snow, impossible speed, impossible size. Logic crashed against fear. Fear won. Road straightened for a short stretch. Put my foot flat down. Lorry shuddered, engine screaming. Needle pushed towards the red line. Fastest this old machine could manage. Looked in the mirror. Thing was still beside me. Unchanged, unhurried, just running. Like it was taking a gentle jog. Started to feel cold, deep down cold, beyond the weather, beyond the lorry's heater, a different kind of cold, numbing cold that seeped into your bones. The air inside the cab felt colder despite the vents blasting warm air. Miles blurred. Time lost meaning, just the road, the snow, the lorry's engine, and the thing beside me. A silent companion on this frozen road. A companion I never asked for and desperately wanted to lose. Then a sign, peeking out from under the snow. Petrol station 5 miles. Salvation anywhere was better than this road, this unending chase. Hoped it was open, hoped there were people, hoped for light, warmth, normality. Pushed on, focusing on the sign, willing the miles to vanish. Creature still there, but the thought of other humans gave a tiny spark of courage. Maybe light would scare it. Maybe people would see it. Maybe it was all in my head. And getting to a lit place would prove it. 5 miles felt like 50. Then lights ahead, faint glows in the blizzard. The petrol station. Relief washed over me, so strong it almost made me weep. Slowed down, indicators on, pulled into the forecourt. Small place, single pump, tiny shop building, but lights on. Thank God, lights on. Parked beside the pump, engine idling. Took a breath, tried to calm my racing heart. Needed petrol anyway. Needed to see a human face. Needed to know I wasn't mad. Opened the door. Stepped out into the biting wind. Snow crunched under my boots. Wind tore at my clothes. Shivering, pulled my coat tighter. Glanced around, no sign of the thing. Gone? Had it vanished when I reached civilization? Maybe it was just a trick of the light, the snow, the isolation. Walked towards the shop door. Glass window steamed up. Could see a figure inside behind the counter. Man, bundled in a jumper, reading a newspaper. Normal, blessedly normal. Reached the door, pushed it open. Small bell above the frame jingled. Man looked up, startled. His eyes widened. Stayed wide. He stared, not at me, behind me, or at the lorry. Turned to look. Nothing. Just the lorry, covered in snow. What was he staring at? Turned back to the man. His face was pale, ashen. He pointed, finger, trembling, pointing at the side of my lorry. The driver's side door. Followed his gaze. Looked at the lorry door. Snow covered it, like everywhere else. Then saw it, patches, darker patches in the snow. Not snow. Something else, streaks and smears, red-brown against the white. Leading from the handle, across the door, up the side of the cab, like paint thrown against the metal. Leaned closer, saw it clearer. Not paint, blood. Dry, frozen blood. Streaked across the lorry in lines. Lines that looked familiar, looked closer still. Focused on one patch, the red-brown smear on the door handle, and realized, not smears, prints, handprints, small, thin, skeletal handprints, covering the side of my lorry as far up as I could see. Calls came through about noises in Sector 7. Sector 7 is out of bounds, always has been. Something about unstable ground and old mine shafts, so the signs say. People keep away, except it seems for whatever makes noises. I pulled on my parka. Cold wind bit hard outside the station. Sky grey, ground white, trees black and bare. Winter in the park. Quiet normally, except not today. Drove the truck to the edge of Sector 7. Gate locked, as always. Walked the rest. Snow crunched under my boots. Woods, silent at first, just wind in the branches. Then I noticed it. Faint sound. Hard to place, like cracking or snapping. Away in the trees, went further in, sound clearer. Branches snapping, yes, and something else, something scraping. Like nails on wood or bone on stone. Not normal wood sounds, not animal sounds I knew. Animals keep quiet in this cold. Deeper in now. Light fading under the trees. Sound getting louder. Branches breaking more often. Scraping noise continues. Started to feel peculiar, like standing somewhere I should not be, like the woods themselves were listening. Came to a small clearing. Snow undisturbed here, except prints. Big prints in the snow, shaped like feet, human feet, but too big, far too big, and deep, sunk deep in the snow as if something very, very big had stepped there, followed the prints. They went into the trees, away from the clearing, each print deep and distinct, human shape, but massive, size of a bear's paw, maybe bigger, but shaped like a foot. Something walked in the snow, something huge, something like a man, but not a man. Prints led me onward. Noise continued, snapping branches, scraping sound. Now added to it something else, a rustling, like something moving through the undergrowth, moving quickly, keeping pace with me but hidden. Stopped walking, listened, snapping, scraping, rustling all around. Circle closing in, turned around. Prints went back the way I came, but closer to me now, other marks in the snow, drag marks, like something being pulled or dragged. Raised my torch. Beam cut through the dim light, showed the trees, snow on the ground, prints, and drag marks. Marks got wider, deeper as they got nearer, like whatever made them was getting nearer. Turned to go back to the truck, back out of Sector 7. Started to walk faster. Prints behind me seemed to be getting faster too. Drag marks getting more obvious. Rustling in the trees louder, started to jog, then run, boots pounding on the frozen ground, sound of my own breath in my ears, branches whipping past my face, torch beam bouncing wildly, prints behind me, still there, still big, still deep. Drag marks now almost continuous lines in the snow, something crashed in the trees behind me, loud crack of wood splitting, close, very close. Tripped, went down hard in the snow, torch flew from my hand, skittered across the ground, light spinning, scrambled back up. Picked up the torch, beam flickered, light weak, jumping, pointed it back into the trees. Where the crash came from, figure there, between the trees, caught in the torch beam for a moment. Tall, very tall, thin shape, too thin, bent over, low to the ground. On all fours, head lifted, face turned towards me, eyes in the beam, holes where eyes should be, dark holes looking at me. Torch flickered again, light died. Darkness now, complete dark, except eyes. Still there, in the dark. 2 points of dark looking at me. Closer now, sound again. Not snapping branches now, not scraping, something else. Breathing but not normal breath. Wet sound, rattling sound, close, ground shaking, something running fast, running towards me through the trees, breaking branches as it comes, breathing sound louder, rattling breath, and something else, sound under the breath, like whimpering or growling, hard to tell. Scared sound, angry sound, both sounds mixed together, running noise getting louder, closer, too close. Can feel the ground shake with each step, hear the branches snap right next to me now, breathing sound right there, turned and ran, blind now, darkness all around, just sound to guide me, sound of my own running, sound of something running behind, faster than me, much faster, sound of breathing right behind me, wet, rattling breath, growling, whimpering sound mixed in, ran through the trees, crashing and stumbling in the dark. Branches tearing at my clothes and my face. Didn't stop, couldn't stop. Knew if I stopped it would get me, whatever it was, behind me in the dark. Breathing on my neck, almost. Fell again. Tangled in roots, wind knocked out of me. Lay in the snow, gasping, trying to get breath back. Sound still there, behind me. Closer than ever. No running sound now, just there. Waiting, tried to get up. Leg twisted. Pain shot up my leg. Could not stand. Stuck in the snow, in the dark, with it somewhere close in the trees, breathing. Sound of feet in the snow, not my feet, other feet coming nearer. Crunching snow, getting closer, can hear breathing now, right there, just behind the trees. Rattling breath, low growl, and is that crying? Sound like crying now mixed in with the growl. Strange sounds, terrible sounds, feet in snow closer still, just there now, at the edge of the trees. Can almost feel it, feel its presence, feel something cold in the air, something not right, then just gone. Sound stopped. Breathing, growling, crying, feet in snow, all gone. Silence, complete silence, except for my own breath, ragged and fast. And wind in the trees again, just wind. Sat there in the snow, in the dark, listening. Nothing. Just trees and wind and silence. But still there. Feeling still there, feeling of something. Watching, even in the silence, even in the dark, still watching from the trees out there. Somewhere in Sector 7, tried to move, pain in my leg sharp, could not stand, stuck here in the dark in Sector 7, and something still out there, in the trees, watching. The Arctic dark arrived again, swallowing what little light remained. Sounds carried far in the frozen air. At first, it was easy to ignore them. The wind always made noises around the outpost, but these were not wind noises. These were sounds with an edge, a cry that scraped against something deep inside me. My co-workers, used to this place, paid them no mind. They said it was the ice shifting, or maybe animals far off. I wanted to believe them. Days turned into nights, and the sounds continued. They were always distant, always just at the edge of hearing, but always there, a sort of high, thin whine, mixed with something lower, more animal. It made sleep uneasy. I would lie in my bunk, listening to the wind rattle the hut, and then beneath it the cries. Then things changed. The food stores, carefully planned for our months here, started to diminish faster. We had systems to track everything. Mistakes were rare, but the numbers did not lie. Food was going. We checked for pests, for errors in counting, nothing. The food was simply disappearing. Outside, the snow began to show marks. Prints, unlike any animal I knew. Too big for a fox, not right for a bear. They were rounder, wider, and they came close to the buildings, then went away into the white emptiness. We followed them once. For a short distance, they just kept going, fading into the snowy plains. There was something disturbing about how they appeared and vanished, as if whatever made them moved with no effort, no sound. Then, one morning, Olsen was gone. Just gone. His bunk empty, his gear still there. No note, no sign of struggle. We searched, of course, went out into the snow, following our own tracks from the day before. Nothing, just white. The sounds in the night seemed different after that. Sharper, maybe, closer. The others became worried then. The easy dismissal of the noises faded. We started locking doors, checking windows. Silly things, really, in a place like this. What could a lock stop out here? But it was something to do. It made us feel a little safer, even though none of us truly believed it would help against anything real. Another night, more sounds. These were clearer now. Less like wind, more like voices. Not words, but cries. Hungry cries. I lay in my bunk listening, my heart doing strange things in my chest. The hut seemed very small, very flimsy against the vast dark cold outside. Then Davies vanished, just like Olsen. 1 minute there, the next just not. His coffee cup still on the table, half full, his coat by the door, gone. Now only 3 of us left, Peterson, Jacobs and me. The fear was out in the open now. We stopped talking about wind, about ice. We knew something was taking them, something we did not understand. We stayed together all the time. Ate together, worked together, even slept in the same room. It was cramped, but it felt a little less terrifying. The sounds at night were constant now, no longer distant. They seemed to circle the hut, whispers just beyond the walls, breaths against the windows. Peterson went next. We were playing cards, just to try and pass the time, to keep our minds from the dark outside. He went to get more coffee, just stepped out of the room. Jacobs and I waited and waited. He did not come back. We called his name, no answer. We searched the small hut, not there. We did not go outside, not then. We stayed inside, just the 2 of us, listening to the noises getting closer. Jacobs was shaking. I was too, but trying not to show it. We sat in silence for a long time, just listening to the hut creak in the cold, to the wind. And beneath it, the other sounds, the hungry sounds. We made a plan. We would try to radio for help in the morning. If the radio worked, we had not tried it since Olsen disappeared. We were too afraid maybe of what we would find if it did not work. We went to bed, or tried to. Sleep was not really possible anymore, just lying, tense, listening. During the night I heard Jacobs get up. I opened my eyes. He was standing at the window, looking out. I called his name softly. He did not answer. He just stood there, looking. Then he turned, very slowly, to face me. His eyes were open, but they did not look right, empty. He smiled, a smile that was not Jacob's smile. He moved towards me, not walking, but gliding. I got out of bed, backing away. He kept coming, that smile never leaving his face. I moved around the table, putting it between us. He just went around the other way, moving too fast, too smoothly. I ran. I ran to the door, fumbling with the latch, my hands clumsy with cold and fear. I got the door open and went out into the night. The cold hit me hard. I ran away from the hut into the snow. I did not know where I was going, just away. The snow crunched under my boots. The wind cut at my face. Behind me, I could hear noises. Not Jacob's, something else. Something running in the snow, faster than me. I looked back once. I could just see the hut, a small, dark shape against the white, and something else, darker still, moving away from it, towards me. I kept running. My breath burned in my chest. My legs felt numb. The noises behind me were gaining. I could hear breathing now, big breaths, animal breaths, and the cries, the hungry cries, all around me. I tripped, fell in the snow. The cold bit through my clothes at once. I tried to get up, but my legs would not work. I looked up. Against the snowy ground, a shape, big, taller than a man, thin but strong-looking, covered in something dark, like fur, but not fur, more like matted hair. It stood over me. No face, not really, just a skull shape with holes for eyes and a mouth that was too big, filled with teeth that were too sharp. It smelled of old ice and something else, something rotten. The cries came from it, not from its mouth, but from all around it, the cries of hunger made real. It reached down, long fingers ending in points like claws. I closed my eyes, waiting for the pain, but it did not come. Instead, a different sound, a tearing sound, like cloth ripping. I opened my eyes again. It was not looking at me anymore, it was looking behind me, down the slope of the small hill we were on. Its head was turned, angled in an odd way. The cries were louder now, but further off. It stayed like that for a moment, unmoving. Then it turned and went, not running but loping, moving across the snow with a speed that was impossible, gone in seconds, swallowed by the dark and the snow. I lay there for a long time, unable to move, the cold seeping into me, afraid to move, afraid it would come back. After what felt like hours, I managed to get up, my body stiff and sore. I looked around. Nothing, just snow and dark and the wind. The hut was a small light in the distance. I started walking back, slowly, like an old man, each step an effort. When I got to the hut, the door was open. I went inside, empty, just like before, but emptier now, colder. I looked around. Jacobs was gone. Peterson was gone. Olsen, Davies, all gone, just me. I went to the window and looked out into the night. The snow stretched away white under the faint starlight. And then I noticed them, the marks in the snow, starting from just outside the hut, going away into the darkness, the big, round tracks. But these were different. These tracks were going the other way too, coming from the dark, towards the hut. Many tracks, circling the hut, getting closer. And then above the wind, the sounds, the cries, not distant anymore, close, all around, not hungry cries now, different, triumphant cries, victorious cries, and from the dark beyond the window, in the snow among the tracks, 2 points of light appeared, yellow lights, burning in the dark. The prints were huge, far bigger than any deer I had ever tracked. We followed them deep into the woods. The ground was damp earth and fallen leaves, perfect for holding an impression. Each print was clear, distinct. We trekked for what felt like hours, deeper and deeper into the green, dense wood. Sunlight struggled to reach through the canopy above. The air became still and cold. Then the prints changed. One moment they were undeniably deer, hooves cloven and spaced, pressing into the mud. The next, something different. At first it was subtle, a slight elongation, a different shape to the pad at the front. We stopped to examine them, crouching low to the ground. The change was becoming more pronounced with each step forward. Longer now, narrower, the cloven shape less definite, more like separated toes. A strange curve started to appear in the shape. We looked at each other, a question forming unspoken between us. Deer's feet don't morph. We moved forward again, more cautiously now, our eyes fixed to the ground. The transformation completed itself. The prints were no longer deer, they were feet, humanoid feet, but impossibly large, long, slender, with distinct toes, but huge, gigantic. A chill went through me, despite the walk. It wasn't just the size, it was the way they were placed. The stride was too long, too stretched, like something was pulling itself forward, rather than walking. We carried on following them, a sense of unease growing with every step. The woods seemed to get darker, the trees taller, more imposing. The silence was absolute, except for the crunch of our boots on the leaves and the distant call of a bird, a raven maybe. The sun began to dip below the trees, long shadows stretched out, distorting the shapes of the woods. We decided to stop. It was getting too dark to track properly, and a growing apprehension made us want to be back in camp before night completely fell. We turned back, retracing our steps. The return journey seemed different somehow. The woods felt different, more watchful. The prints we had followed now faced away from us, leading deeper into the darkening trees. We walked faster, the fading light spurring us on. Back at the camp, we started a fire. Flames leapt up, pushing back the encroaching gloom. The fire crackled and spat, sending sparks into the night air. We sat around it, eating some food, trying to ignore the feeling that something was not right. Something had shifted in the woods. The darkness became absolute beyond the firelight. The trees were just black shapes against a slightly less black sky. The stars, when they appeared, seemed distant and cold. We sat in silence, the fire our only companion. Then we noticed it, a sound from beyond the fire, a breathing sound, deep and ragged like someone struggling for air. It wasn't animal breathing, it was too deep, too measured for a deer or fox. It sounded bigger. We all froze, listening intently. The breathing continued, regular, drawn-out breaths, just at the edge of the darkness, too far to see anything, just beyond where the firelight reached. We shifted closer to the fire, instinctively seeking its protection. The breathing was steady, persistent. It didn't seem to be moving, just there, present. One of us, braver or perhaps more foolish, picked up a burning branch from the fire. He held it out, extending the light into the darkness. The flames danced and flickered, throwing weird, jumping shapes onto the trees. For a moment, nothing, just trees and night. Then in the edge of the firelight, amongst the trees, a shape, bent low, crouching. At first it looked like just another dark tree trunk, twisted and gnarled. But it moved, or part of it moved. A limb shifted position, a head turned. It was a figure, humanoid but gaunt, emaciated beyond belief. Bones jutted out, sharp angles in the dim light. Skin stretched tight over a skeletal frame. Its limbs were too long, its torso too thin. Its head was small, skull-like. It had no clothes. It was naked, pale in the firelight, and utterly horrifying. The eyes were dark pits. We couldn't see any features, just deep, empty sockets that seemed to absorb the firelight. It crouched there, in the trees, watching us. The breathing sound was coming from it. From that thin, stretched chest. We knew instantly and without question what it was. The old stories, the whispers around campfires, the legends we tried to dismiss as just stories. Wendigo. Someone fired. A gunshot blasted into the night, the sound echoing off the trees. Another shot followed, and another. Gunfire ripped through the silence. We were firing into the shape in the trees, desperate to hit it, to stop it. It moved. Not away, not deeper into the woods. It moved towards us, but not like anything we had ever seen move before. It was not running, it was blurring, a rapid flicker of motion too fast for the eye to truly register. One moment it was in the trees, the next it was somewhere else. Closer. The bullets went wide. We could see them kicking up dirt and bark around where it had been, but not hitting it. It was too quick, far too quick. Then it was amongst us, no sound of approach, just suddenly there. A flicker at the edge of vision, then a presence directly beside the fire. One of us screamed, a short, sharp cry of pure terror, then silence. The scream cut off abruptly. We spun around, guns raised, searching. The figure was gone. And so was one of our group, just vanished, into thin air. The space beside the fire was empty, except for the firelight dancing on the leaves. Panic seized us. We were firing wildly now, into the darkness, into the trees, anywhere and everywhere, but there was nothing to aim at, nothing to see, just the breathing still out there, but further away now, as if it had retreated slightly back into the deep black. Another scream, longer this time, filled with agony. Then silence again, another of us gone, just disappeared from beside the fire, leaving nothing behind, no trace. The fire crackled and popped. Sparks flew upwards, oblivious to the horror unfolding around it. We huddled together, backs to the fire, facing outwards, guns pointed into the blackness. We could still hear the breathing, deeper now, almost a growl, moving around us, circling the fire, just beyond the reach of the light. A hand touched my shoulder, ice cold, a grip like iron. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to move, but I was frozen, turned to stone. I could feel the cold grip tighten, pulling me backwards, away from the fire, towards the darkness. The last thing I was aware of was the firelight shrinking behind me and the deep, ragged breathing very near. Night fell fast in the woods. I was alone in the cabin, miles from anyone. A sound from above woke me. Something was on the roof. I listened. Footsteps, heavy ones, like a large animal pacing above my head. Must be a badger, I thought, or maybe a fox got up there somehow. I settled back down, trying to ignore the sounds. They continued. Pacing, then a scrape, then more pacing. Eventually silence. I drifted back to sleep. Morning arrived, light pushing through the gaps in the wooden walls. I got up, stretched, and went outside. As I stepped onto the porch, I noticed marks above the door, scratches in the wood, high up, out of reach of any normal animal, claw marks, deep ones. I moved further from the cabin and looked up at the roof. More marks, long trails across the shingles. Whatever was up there last night had claws, big claws. I walked around the cabin, looking. Behind the cabin, near the tree line, something caught my eye. A shape, pale against the dark trees. I walked towards it. As I got nearer, I understood what it was. A deer, dead, but not just dead, it was stuck, high up on a branch of a tall pine tree, impaled, like someone had taken a dead deer and thrown it up into the tree. I moved closer, examining it. The deer's body was pale, its fur dull, its ribcage was exposed, bones gleaming white in the morning light. They were clean, gnawed clean. Something had eaten the flesh from the ribs and then stuck the carcass up in the tree. The sight made my stomach turn. Back in the cabin, the day passed slowly. I tried to read, but my mind kept going back to the marks on the roof and the deer in the tree. What kind of animal does that? Sticks a dead deer in a tree? And what kind of claws leave marks like that on wood? It wasn't like any animal I knew. As dusk began to fall, a feeling grew within me. A cold feeling, not from the temperature dropping outside, but from inside me. A sense of dread. I lit the oil lamp early, filling the cabin with a weak yellow light. I checked the door, making sure the bolt was firmly in place. I looked at the windows, small and thick glass, but still windows. Could something break through? Dark arrived, complete dark. The woods around the cabin went black. Only the small circle of light from my lamp kept the darkness back. Silence outside, too quiet. Then it returned. The sound from above, footsteps on the roof, not pacing this time, different, heavier and purposeful. It was moving around up there, but with intent, like it was searching or hunting. The sound shifted. From the roof above to the side of the cabin, near the window. Scraping noise at the wall, like claws on wood again. But lower now, closer. I moved away from the window, heart beating faster. The scraping stopped. Silence again. Then a new noise, not from the roof, not from the wall, from above the window. A different sound, pushing, a straining sound, like something was trying to push open the small window above the main window. The window was bolted shut. I had checked it myself that morning, but the pushing continued. Harder now. The wood around the window frame creaked, splintered. I backed away further into the cabin, watching the window. The pushing stopped. A moment of still silence. Then a bang, loud bang on the wall next to the window. The cabin shook slightly. Another bang, and another. Whatever was out there was hitting the cabin, trying to get in. I grabbed a chair, wedging it under the door handle for extra security. Pointless, really. If it wanted to get in, a chair wouldn't stop it, but I had to do something. The banging moved to the window below the small one. Bang, bang, bang against the glass. The glass held. Thick glass. But for how long? I moved to the other window, the one on the opposite wall. Same thing, banging, trying to break the glass. It was going around the cabin, testing each window, each wall, looking for a way inside. I started to pile things against the windows. Books, boxes, anything I could find to make them stronger, to block them up. Another crash from the window, louder this time. Something cracked. Not the glass, but the wooden frame around it. The wood was starting to give way. I pushed a heavy wooden chest against the window, jamming it tight. It took all my strength. As I stepped back, panting, another crash. This time from the door. It was hitting the door now, trying to break down the door. The bolt was strong, a good solid bolt. But the door was just wood. Bang, bang, bang on the door, each impact shaking the cabin. Splinters flying from the door frame. The wood around the bolt was cracking. It wouldn't hold for long. I looked around, desperate. Nothing else to use to barricade. Nowhere else to go. The banging stopped. Silence again, but not the same silence as before. This was a listening silence, like it was waiting, thinking. I stood still, hardly breathing, listening too. What was it going to do next? Then a different sound, not banging, not scraping, not pushing. A sound from right outside the window I had just barricaded with the chest. A sound close to the glass. A sniffing sound, like an animal sniffing at the window, but louder than any animal I knew. Deeper, and then a shape. Outside the window, blocking out the weak light from the lamp, something massive, taller than the window itself, wider than the window. I could see it through the glass. Dark shape against the darker night, it moved closer to the glass. The sniffing sound came again, right by my ear, even with the glass between us, and then it lowered its head until its face was right there, against the window, looking in, eyes. I could see eyes gleaming in the dark, red eyes, burning red, staring at me, and a face around the eyes, pale face, long face, like a skull but with skin stretched tight over the bone, and horns. I could see horns curving back from its head, dark and sharp, and teeth, long teeth, pointed teeth, showing in a snarl. It pressed its face closer to the glass, its breath misting on the window. I could smell it, a smell of rot and ice. It stared at me, through me. Those red eyes burning into my soul. It knew I was there. It had found me, trapped in the small cabin, and it was outside, waiting, watching, hungry. Sun dipped low, painting the forest in long, stretching shades. I was lost, properly, utterly lost. My map, a useless mess of creases and rain smudges, offered no comfort. Panic, a cold fist, began to squeeze my insides. I pushed through a tangle of branches, hoping for a landmark, any sign I was going the proper way. Instead, I found a clearing. In the center sat a tent, ripped apart. Fabric flapped in the breeze like torn skin. My breath caught. It was not just damaged, it was ruined. Gashes ran across the material, poles snapped like twigs. Around it, scattered gear lay strewn about, a sleeping bag ripped open, its stuffing spilling out like entrails, a cooking pot dented and twisted. Whatever had done this was not gentle. A chill, colder than the evening air, ran down my spine. This was not animal damage, this was something else. I scanned the trees surrounding the clearing. Silence. Just the whisper of wind through the leaves, but the feeling was wrong. Dusk deepened into proper dark. The forest sounds changed. Daytime birdsong hushed, replaced by rustles and clicks from unseen creatures. Shadows grew longer, darker, twisting familiar shapes into monstrous outlines. I knew I should keep moving, try to retrace my steps, but night in these woods felt different, menacing. The idea of stumbling around in the dark, alone with whatever had destroyed that tent out there, it froze me to the spot. Reluctantly, I decided to stay put. Better the danger I could sense than the danger I couldn't. I found a relatively clear patch away from the ruined tent and unpacked my own gear. Setting up my small one-man tent was a clumsy, fumbling process in the fading light. My hands shook. Every snap of a pole, every rustle of fabric sounded deafeningly loud in the still forest. Finished, I crawled inside, zipping the door shut. A thin layer of nylon was scant protection, but it was something. I sat in the dark, listening. The forest was alive with noises. Snaps, crackles, the scurrying of small animals. Normal forest sounds, I tried to convince myself, but beneath them, a different feeling pulsed. An awareness, like something else was listening too, out there beyond the thin fabric of my tent. I strained my ears. A twig snapped further out, then another. Too loud for a squirrel, too heavy. I held my breath, every muscle tense. Silence again, just the wind, just the trees, just me? No, not just me. The feeling persisted, intensified, an awareness of being watched. Not just watched, but studied, considered, by something out there in the dark. Hours dragged by, the night deepened, sleep was impossible. Every sound outside became amplified, distorted by my fear. The rustling of leaves became footsteps, the creak of branches, a presence moving amongst the trees. My heart hammered against my ribs, sweat slicked my skin despite the chill. Then I glimpsed it, through a gap in the trees, a patch of deeper black against the night, a shape, too tall, too upright to be a deer. It moved between the trees, soundless. Then it was gone, swallowed by the blackness again, but it had been there. Something large, something moving with purpose, something interested in me. Terror, raw and icy, gripped me. This was not just being lost, this was something far worse. The ruined tent. It was not random damage. It was a warning, or maybe it was a meal interrupted. The rest of the night was a blur of fear and sleeplessness. Every rustle, every snap, every sigh of the wind was interpreted as its approach. I huddled in my sleeping bag, eyes wide open, staring into the darkness beyond the tent, waiting, dreading. Dawn finally broke, painting the sky in pale greys and pinks. The forest sounds shifted again, birdsong returning tentatively. The feeling of being watched lessened slightly, but it did not vanish. It was still there. A low hum beneath the surface of the morning quiet. As soon as it was properly light, I scrambled out of the tent. My legs were stiff, my body achy from tension. I needed to move, needed to get away. I packed my gear in a frenzy, hands still shaking. Food was forgotten, water was forgotten, just escape. Then I noticed them, the tracks in the soft earth around my campsite, massive, bipedal. Each print was longer than my forearm. Three-toed, deep claw marks gouging the ground. They circled my tent, a complete circle, as if something had walked around me all night. My breath hitched. These were not animal tracks. No animal I had ever heard of made prints like this. These were monstrous and recent, freshly pressed into the morning dew. Panic surged again, stronger this time. I didn't wait another second. Shouldering my pack, I ran blindly through the trees, not caring which direction, just away. Branches whipped at my face, thorns tore at my clothes. I didn't stop, couldn't stop. For hours I ran, walked, stumbled. The forest was endless. Trees blurred into a green and brown maze. Fatigue began to set in, my legs aching, lungs burning. But the fear kept me going. The image of those tracks burned into my mind. As the day wore on, the forest changed, became denser, darker. The trees grew taller, their branches interlocking overhead, blocking out the sun. The air grew colder, damper. A silence settled, deeper than before. Even the birds were quiet now. The feeling returned. The awareness, stronger now. It was no longer just a feeling, it was a certainty. Something was still out there, following, keeping pace. I glanced back over my shoulder. Nothing, just trees, shadows. But the hairs on the back of my neck prickled. I knew it was there, just out of sight, patient. As evening approached once more, the dread intensified. The forest felt different again, more hostile. The shadows lengthened, twisting into even more grotesque shapes. Every sound was magnified, loaded with menace. I kept walking, putting one foot in front of the other, driven by a primal urge to escape. But escape to where? There was no escape. Not in this forest, not from it. The sun dipped below the trees, plunging the woods into twilight. The sounds of the forest changed once more. The rustling of leaves took on a new quality, a measured, purposeful sound, like something large moving just beyond the trees, keeping pace. Darkness fell. The feeling was almost unbearable now, no longer distant it felt. Close, too close. I could almost feel its presence, its gaze on me, a snap of a twig nearby. Closer than before, I froze, listening, heart pounding, blood roaring in my ears. Another snap, closer still, and something else, a different sound, a soft, dragging sound, through the undergrowth, something large, something heavy, moving towards me. I started to run again, desperate, panicked running, crashing through the undergrowth, branches tearing at me, stumbling over roots. But it was no use. I could still hear it. The snaps, the dragging sound, keeping pace, unrelenting. The trees grew closer together, the forest floor littered with fallen logs and tangled vines. My footing became uncertain, my breath ragged. I tripped, fell hard, sprawling onto the damp earth. Pain shot through my ankle. I lay there for a moment, winded, disoriented, listening. The snaps and dragging sounds were closer now, very close. Slowly I pushed myself up, wincing at the pain in my ankle. It throbbed, refusing to bear my full weight. Limping, I tried to move again, but my pace was reduced to a crawl. The sounds were all around me now, circling, closer and closer, no longer hidden but moving openly. The undergrowth rustled and snapped with its passing. The air grew colder, a biting chill that seeped into my bones. I could smell it now, a scent I couldn't place. Musky, rank, something ancient and unclean. It filled the air, suffocating. Then through the trees I saw it, a glimpse, a shape, taller than any man, pale, gaunt, moving with a fluid, unsettling gait, just a fleeting glimpse before it was gone again, swallowed by the deepening shadows. But it was enough. I knew what it was now, the ruined tent, the tracks, the feeling of being watched, the scent. It all made sense. Wendigo. The word formed in my mind, cold and heavy, a name for the nameless terror that had been hunting me, a creature of legend, a creature of nightmare, and it was real, it was here. The snapping of twigs was right beside me now, the dragging sound just ahead. Closing in, trapped, cornered, no escape left, just the Wendigo and the dark. Snow fell. It fell hard, fast, blinding. We were fools to think we could hike that day. The path vanished under a white blanket within minutes. We pushed on, hoping to reach the cabin. Hope faded with the daylight. The wind howled like a beast, tearing at our coats, biting into any exposed skin. Night came, black and freezing. We huddled together, 4 of us, in a shallow dip in the mountainside. The snow piled up around us, a cold white prison. Our food packs felt feather light. We'd planned for a day hike, not this, biscuits, chocolate, a flask of tea, gone by midday. The blizzard raged through the night, no let-up. The world was just snow and wind and the gnawing emptiness in our bellies. Sleep was impossible. Shivering took over. We stamped our feet, clapped our hands, anything to keep some feeling in our limbs. Morning brought no change, just more white fury. The cabin was a dream now, distant and unreal. We ate the last of the chocolate, sharing tiny slivers. It tasted of nothing against the hunger that had taken root inside. Another day blurred. Snow, wind, cold, hunger. It became our world. Talking stopped. What was there to say? We knew we were trapped. Then Mark went quiet, still shivering but quiet. He slumped against the snowdrift, eyes closed. We shook him, called his name. No reply. His skin was ice, he was gone. We stared at him, not grief, not then. Just numb cold and a hollow ache that was more than hunger now. It was deep inside, a spreading darkness. Days after, or maybe it was still the same day, time had lost meaning. The storm still screamed. Food was a memory. The gnawing had become a constant, clawing pain. We looked at each other, eyes sunken, faces gaunt. Something had shifted, something basic, animal. I remember staring at Mark. He lay there, still and cold against the snow, like a discarded thing. He wasn't using his food. He wasn't cold. He wasn't hungry anymore. The thought arrived slowly, a seed pushed up through the frozen ground of my mind. It was small, at almost dismissed, but the hunger grew, and the seed took root. I remember Alan glancing at Mark, then at me, then at Sarah. His eyes were different, empty, yet sharp. Sarah didn't meet my gaze. She stared at the snow, face pale and still. The seed sprouted branches. It grew larger, stronger. It pushed aside all other thoughts. It filled the emptiness. It became the only thing. Later hours, days, who could tell? The storm began to weaken. The wind dropped a little. Snow fell less fiercely. A grey light seeped through the clouds. Rescuers came, not at. It felt like years later, but maybe days. Helicopter blades beat the air, pushing back the snow. Men in bright jackets trudged through the drifts. They found me. Just me. sitting beside what was left. They looked at me, faces grim. I was weak, could barely stand. My lips cracked, bleeding. My hands were stained red, dark red, dried and cracked into the lines of my palms. They asked questions, muttered amongst themselves, pointed at the remains, bones mostly, scattered and broken, clothes ripped and torn, lying in the snow. I tried to speak. My voice was a croak. "Wendigo," I managed, barely a whisper. "Wendigo took them." They didn't understand. They looked at the bones. They looked at my red hands, my cracked mouth. They saw the horror in my eyes, but not the Wendigo. They saw something else. Something in the way the bones were broken, the way the clothes were ripped, something in the silence, in the snow stained red around me. They carried me away, wrapped in blankets, lifted into the helicopter. Looking back, I could still see the snow, white and pure, marred only by the dark red patches. The wind whipped my hair as we lifted off. Below, the mountains stretched out, silent and cold under the clearing sky. They held their secrets, buried beneath the snow. "The Wendigo," I said, but even I didn't believe it anymore. The red on my hands felt cold, so very cold, and the silence in my mind was deafening. The trees pressed close all around. Days had blurred together. Food was gone, water was scarce. Each step became an effort. I was lost. The wilderness held me tight. Sun disappeared beyond the tall pines hours ago. Darkness now complete, every sound magnified. Branches snapped somewhere nearby, unseen. Animals moved in the undergrowth. My stomach clenched, empty and aching. Hunger gnawed at me, sharper than any blade. Days became a week, then another. The forest floor was my bed, roots my pillow. The cold seeped into my bones. Weakness made every movement a struggle. Finding berries kept me going for a while, then even berries vanished. Hunger became more than just an emptiness. It was a burning need, twisting inside me. I began to crave something beyond berries, beyond any food I knew. It was a different kind of hunger, a deep animal need. It grew steadily, taking over my thoughts. Water no longer satisfied. Berries tasted like nothing. My body demanded sustenance, but not the kind I could find in the forest. This new hunger was dark, insistent. It whispered of meat, raw and fresh. I walked and walked, driven by this consuming need. The forest seemed to change around me. The trees became taller, darker. The air itself felt different, charged with something unseen. The sounds of the woods shifted too, no longer comforting rustles and chirps, but something else, something that scraped at my nerves. Eventually, I found my way back. The familiar track, almost forgotten, appeared before me. I followed it, stumbling, until I saw the house. Home. They were shocked to see me, faces pale, eyes wide. They said I'd been gone weeks lost in the Canadian wilds. I could see the worry etched on their faces, but all I could think about was food. Real food. They gave me stew. I ate it quickly, barely tasting it, then more and more. I ate until my stomach ached, but the deep hunger remained, a dull, persistent throb behind my ribs. I could not explain it, could not describe the constant, gnawing emptiness inside. Later I noticed things were different, in me. My reflection in the mirror looked back at someone almost a stranger. Eyes sunk deep in their sockets, skin stretched tight over bone. Thinner, yes, but something else too. Something in my eyes, a wildness I had never seen before. My teeth felt different, sharper maybe. They seemed longer somehow. I ran my tongue over them, pointed, unusual. I dismissed it as tiredness, the effects of starvation. My breath, they recoiled when I spoke. I smelled it myself, a foulness like rotting meat. Even after brushing my teeth again and again, it was always there, a constant, disgusting odor. No amount of washing could get rid of it. My appetite was never satisfied. I ate everything put in front of me. Piles of food vanished, yet the hunger never lessened. It was a bottomless pit. They looked at me with concern, with something else too. Fear? One night my daughter went missing, gone from her bed. No sound, no trace, just vanished. Panic filled the house. Searches were organized. The police came. Nothing. She was just gone. Vanished into thin air. Then my son. A week later, same thing. Bed empty in the morning. Another frantic search. Again, nothing. The fear in the house became icy cold. We locked our doors. Checked windows. Every creak of the house sent shivers down our spines. My wife started sleeping in the same room as me. She clung to me in the dark. I could feel her trembling. I tried to comfort her, but the words caught in my throat. I could smell my own breath, the disgusting decay. It was repulsive even to me. One morning I woke up alone. My wife was gone, the bed beside me cold, a note on the pillow, just one word, away. But I knew she had not just left. She was gone, like the others. Taken? I felt it then, the deep dark hunger rising, consuming me entirely. It was no longer just in my stomach, it was in my chest, my head, my bones, everywhere. It was a screaming void that demanded to be filled. I left the house, walked back towards the woods. The pull of the forest was strong, irresistible. I moved swiftly now, no longer weak. My legs powered me forward, my senses heightened. I could smell the damp earth, the pine needles, the animals in the distance. I ran into the trees, deeper and deeper. The hunger roared in my ears. It guided me. It directed me. I could hear the rustling of leaves, the snap of twigs. Something else moved in the trees, something big. Following me? Leading me? The hunger pulsed. It demanded satisfaction. Not with stew, not with berries. Something else, something more. A raw animal need, a forbidden craving. I reached a clearing. Moonlight filtered through the branches. The air was still, silent, except for my breathing, ragged and rapid. And another sound, a low growl, coming from the trees at the edge of the clearing. I moved towards the sound, drawn by an unseen force. The growling intensified. The trees seemed to part. Something emerged from the darkness, tall, dark, its shape indistinct in the shadows, but I could see glints of teeth, long, sharp teeth, and eyes. Burning eyes that fixed on me. Fear should have gripped me then, but it didn't. Only hunger, a mirroring hunger, a shared need. I understood somehow. I knew what it was, what I was becoming. The shape moved closer. It stepped into the moonlight. Torn cloth hung from its massive frame, rags of familiar fabric, my hunting jacket, ripped to shreds, wrapped around something impossibly large, impossibly monstrous. It stood between me and the path back, blocking my way home. No home to return to now anyway, only the woods, only the hunger, only this thing, this creature, this reflection. It raised a hand, clawed, long fingers tipped with points like daggers. The stench of decay was overpowering now. It emanated from the creature, from the very air around it, a nauseating wave of rot and death. It was the smell of my own breath, magnified, intensified, made real. It opened its mouth, a cavernous maw filled with rows of teeth, beyond sharp, beyond animal. Teeth meant for tearing, for rending, for devouring. And in the back of that dark throat, a deeper darkness, a deeper hunger. It did not move. Not yet. It simply stood there, a silhouette against the moon, blocking my path, showing me what I had become, what I was meant to be. And the hunger inside me surged, answering the call, rising to meet its twin in the shadowed clearing. The trees seemed to watch, silent witnesses to the transformation, to the final, horrifying acceptance.